Hi guys, welcome to Leanne's Garden. As you probably noticed already, I'm not Leanne and I'm not in the garden. So my name's Matt, I'm Leanne's husband, and I'm going to have a video in the kitchen today. So the reason I'm in the kitchen is Leanne thought it would be a nice idea for me to show you some of the things that I make with the produce that she gets from the garden. So today I'm going to show you a bit about how I go about making elderberry wine. So elderberries are these lovely blackberries that grows in the garden. It's one of the things we both really wanted to grow because Leanne really likes the way they look in the garden, and I was very keen to try my hand at making some elderberry wine. So I've got this bottle that I made from last year's crop of elderberries. It's one of my favourite wines to make just because it has a flavour very similar to a grape wine that you might buy in the shops or make. So I'll show you also, it comes up with this lovely ruby red colour as well. And it's, I highly recommend, if you have elderberries, try your hand at making elderberry wine. It's delicious. So I've got these about 1.2 kilos of elderberries here. We've already removed them from the stems. So when Leanne picks the elderberries, she puts them straight in the freezer. So that kind of serves three purposes for us. First, it lets us build up a bit of enough elderberries to make the wine, because obviously the berries come out at different times. Second, it makes them easier to remove from the stems, and you really do want to remove as much of the stem as possible because they can provide a bit of taste to your wine, and they could also can be toxic. And the third thing that freezing them does, it just makes it easier when you get to the stage that you have to mash them. It'll help to release a lot of the juice and the flavour from those berries into your wine. The only other thing I'll mention about when you're picking them off the stems is that you want to make sure that you don't have any green berries in your elderberries pile there, because those, I understand, are poisonous, and so you don't want any of those in your wine. Let's get to the recipe. So over here is something I prepared earlier. I've got some boiling water. I've got 5 litres of boiling water with about 1.2 kilograms of sugar, boiled together until the sugar dissolves into the water there. So you want that to be hot at this stage. And then, as I said before, we've got about 1.2 kilos of berries. So one of the things you're going to need for making elderberry wine, and other fruit wines as well, is some muslin cloth. So you're going to want to wrap your berries in the cloth. It'll just help to remove all the skins and bits and pieces from the berries once you've got all the juices out. So Leanne used to make me a lovely muslin cloth bag. Unfortunately, our last bag is no longer with us, so I'm just going to use a piece of cloth. I'm going to wrap the berries in the cloth and tie the top up. You can get this from, I think this is just from our local link craft shop, so you can get this from most of those fabric shops if you need to know where to get them from. So just going to lay that down. So I'm just going to put the berries in the middle of the cloth, and I'm going to wrap corners up around it. I'm going to twist that up a bit. Yep, so I've got my berries in the bag all tied up. Now you're going to need some sort of container. Ours is a big plastic container got from our brew shop. This one holds about 15 litres. You only need something that's going to hold at least a bit over 5, so you can get your berries and water in there. So the one thing to note is just make sure that this is sanitized before you use it. You can get sanitizer from, again, home brew shop, that sort of place. So you need to make sure it's all sanitized just so you don't get off flavors in your wine at the end of it when you've, if you get some wild yeast in there or bacteria. So we can just put our berries tied up in there, and then we're going to take a masher, and it's going to go nuts on that for a bit, just to mash out the juice as best we're able, just to try to make sure to release as much of that elderberry juice as we can. So you should only need to mash for a few minutes. Like as long as you see the juice pushing its way through your muslin cloth, that should be fine. So you can see in our fermenter here that we've already got the juice coming out of the cloth there, soaking through the muslin cloth very, very nicely. So we'll add our water and sugar. So as I said before, this is 1.2 kilograms of sugar in 5 liters of water. We want it to still be hot at this stage. We want it to be hot when we pour it over the berries. So all we're going to do is pour that into the fermenter. Like so. And that's it for this stage. So we now just want to leave it there and sit for several hours, probably overnight, so it cools down. And then I'll show you what you do next to start the fermentation process. In the meantime, I'll enjoy some elderberry wine.
With me as well.
Well, maybe. So just one more thing to mention is that while this is cooling down, just make sure you cover it, either with I just put the lid on loosely, you don't need to put it too tight. The other option is just cover it with a clean tea towel or other fabric so that nothing can get into your wine there. And yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy some elderberry wine. I think it actually tastes, I prefer it anyway, better than grape wine. I think Leanne does too. So yeah, it is well worth a try. So here are the final ingredients we're going to add just before putting the yeast in. So first of all, I've got the yeast nutrient and pectic enzyme I've just put into a bowl here. The yeast nutrient will just make sure the yeast has everything it needs to grow and ferment. And the pectic enzyme will just help break down the cell walls excuse me, of the fruit and ensure that we get the flavour out of that fruit there.
How much we put it in?
So I've got 1 teaspoon there of yeast nutrient and just a quarter of a teaspoon of pectic enzyme. You can get both of those just from your probably local home brew shop. So I'll put that in. Next I've got some lemon juice. So this is just for flavour, to add some acidity to the wine. I've just used some lemon juice from some lemons from the garden. You can also use citric acid you might be able to get from your local home brew shop. I just use these because they're convenient usually. So last I'm going to add some Camden tablets. So this is something you could add just to prevent unwanted fermentation from other microorganisms that might be in your wine. You don't have to add this. Some people don't. They prefer not to have it or are allergic to it. I like to add it just for that added security of having a wine fermentation that I can control a bit more. So
how much we add it in?
This is 1 Camden tablet.
Okay, and how much?
Just crush it up.
How much is the lemon juice?
1 lemon, I did say. I think
1 lemon.
1 lemon. Okay. Yep. So gotta put that in. Right. Just give that a stir. Again, make sure what you're using is being sanitized. So one other thing I've done already is I've measured the specific gravity of my wine. So I decided not to do that on video. It's not a very exciting process to watch. But I was aiming for a specific gravity of about 1.090. It's just below that in my my current must. But the you want it around that level. It just will give you some indication that your sugar is in the right proportions, and it'll let you know how much alcohol is going to be in the final product. So all that being done, the last thing is to add my wine. So I'm just using a CL23 wine yeast. You can use any wine yeast from your local brew shop that you like the sound of. Just aim for something that's good for reds. There are quite a few that are good for all-rounders. This one's just a kind of hardy yeast. The addition of the yeast can vary depending on what kind of yeast you're using and what brand. So this one allows me just to put it straight on top of the must there. So make sure you read the instructions of your yeast before you add it. So that's pretty much it for now.
Do we need to stir it?
So I'm going to let that sit for several days now. I'll stir it each day just to keep it oxygenated all the way through and whatnot. And then when it looks about ready, fermentation is going, I'll rack it into a fermentation vessel. Okay, it's been almost 2 weeks, and I've left my wine here for the yeast to get started, and it's you really smell it. It's also bubbling away in there. So now I'm moving on to the next step, where I'm going to remove the berries, and we're going to put the wine into the carboy. So first of all, I'm going to take the cheesecloth out with the berries in it, and we're just going to squeeze as much of that liquid out of there as possible. That's all more flavour and goodness. And once we've done that, I'm just going to put that aside, and you're going to want to wash your cheesecloth as soon as possible. Speaking from experience, and go mouldy very quickly. So we'll come back after I finish squeezing this out. Okay, so now with the berries removed, I'm going to decant the wine from our primary fermenter into a carboy. So to do that, I've got a siphon with a pump. So I'm going to use that to transfer the wine into the carboy. The main thing to consider when you're at this step is to try to avoid getting the sediment that's at the bottom of your primary fermenter. So you want to keep the nozzle of your fermenter of your siphon just above that layer of sediment if you can. So I'm going to do that now. No doubt we'll use some fancy special effects to fast forward through this part because it will take a little bit of time and it's not very exciting once it gets started. So, here we go. Okay, so I've now got my wine in the 5 litre carboy. You may have noticed I've also got another bottle here that I've filled up with a bit of the additional wine. So the reason I've got this extra bottle is next time we transfer this to a new carboy, we'll lose some of the wine because we will need to stay above the layer of sediment that will form at the bottom. So I can use this bottle here just to top that off again so we don't lose any of that flavour. And as you can see, the colour of that wine is already looking amazing, if I do say so myself. So one final thing, just going to put our cap with our airlock in the top, and then we're going to take that somewhere that's out of the way, somewhere that doesn't get too cold or too warm, and leave that for about a month, and then I'll probably check it in and transfer it to this new carboy. So as far as this bottle goes, I don't have an airlock that's going to fit this one, so I'm going to do something which may horrify anyone who's watching this who's a good winemaker. But it's a trick that was taught to me by another brewer. I'm going to put just a little bit of cling wrap over the top and a rubber band, and that's just going to act as the airlock for this bottle. As the gases build up inside, it will push the rubber band out and allow the gases to escape. Probably not the most scientific way of doing this, but it has worked for me in the past. So if you're looking for a quick way of just brewing a bit of wine in a bottle, it doesn't work so badly. So the wine will sit in that second carboy for several months. It will I'll leave it there depending on whether it needs to finish fermenting or if it's if the fermentation's already finished, then I'll leave it there just to clarify. I may need to transfer it to another carboy after that, depending on how it's looking. If I think it needs to clarify a bit more, I might have spend some time with it in a third carboy. And the timing of that can vary a lot depending on the wine I'm making and how it's looking. So once it's settled and looks clear and is completed, then it's time to transfer it into some of your smaller bottles. Just make sure you sanitize all these bottles as you go. And so once you got into this 5 or 6 bottles, then you can store them away, put them somewhere dark, someplace that's nice and cool and dry. You want to leave them if you can, and this is the hard part, leave them for 6 months to a year. It really does improve the flavour if you can give it that extra time to age. But after that, it'll be, hopefully, a nice, lovely bottle of wine for you to drink. Great. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please let us know in the comments. It'd be useful just to know if you'd like to see more videos of me working with some of the amazing produce that Leanne gets out of the garden. I'm more than happy to do more. Also, yeah, happy to take any questions about how I make wine. It's a fairly simple setup here, but it's been working for me for 5 years now. Great, thank you. Bye.